Welcome to the Tom Castro Shooting Academy podcast. You have now entered the next level. What's going on, everybody? A brand new episode of the Tom Castro Shooting Academy Next Level podcast coming to you. So hopefully I don't get too spicy this week. I'm a little irritated. I had a kind of a irritating afternoon. My poor son lost the basketball game that I'm coaching, so I suck. So frustrated with that. I had an idiot almost kill us on the road today. So that wasn't good. Don't usually road rage much, but when my family's in the car, I don't do well with that. So that wasn't good. But we're going to do an awesome podcast. So going to get back to my positive self as I usually am. So we are going to bust out our IPSC versus USPSA podcast. So I actually shot this at the Pan American Games the first time, and then I had a microphone drop out. So I don't know what happened to that microphone, but I got about 15 minutes of one microphone and I don't know, an hour and a half of three microphones. And we had four people doing it. So I had to come back and redo this episode here. So I'm excited to do this. But this episode, the reason I wanted to do this is because I've been shooting quite a bit of IPSC versus USPSA lately. And I really, really wanted to get this out there to show you guys kind of some of the differences that I see. And I have Craig McElhaney and Christina Baker with me. Say hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Wow. Such energy tonight. So we have, so we shot the Pan American together on the same squad. We had our very own PCC super squad. So that was kind of cool. We didn't have to really, well, I guess we were missing one guy that wasn't with us that was shooting PCC. That was pretty good. But he wasn't able, he actually shot during the opposite schedule of us. So really only had one PCC guy that didn't shoot with us the whole match. So it was kind of interesting having a full PCC squad, wasn't it?
That was fun. That was cool. And it was the squad, like it was us. So that's always fun.
I mean, it was pretty much, I think we only had one outlier and it was Zach, right? Zach Smith. He was the only guy that wasn't Team Da Vinci.
Remember Zach, that guy. Jesus.
Yep.
That guy.
Punk. The punk.
Your new best friend, bro. Your new best friend.
Oh, stop.
So yeah, Zach Smith shot with us, shoots for Tarantat goal. So it was funny. We were, I don't know, something happened. I'll just get into this story real quick. Something happened where one of the guys pasted early. And David Padovan says, "Oh, Zach, you're so lucky that wasn't you, bro. It was us. It was a Da Vinci guy, obviously." So he was like, "It's okay. He can screw up, but if it was you, that looks like cheating, you know." I was laughing. Yeah. Obviously, he was joking around with Zach, but it was kind of funny. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. That's pretty good, actually. Like, that's there's some good trash talk coming out of there. Yeah. Trying to cheat us, man. What's up with that? What do we have? How many do we have on our squad? 9?
I think 9.
9.
I think it was 9.
Yeah, so it was 8 versus 1 on that squad versus with rifles.
Yeah,
he's the only guy shot a different rifle. It was like, hell, everybody could have taken parts of each other's rifles and finished the match. He's the only one that had an outlier for sure. That was funny.
It was fun. That was fun.
Done plenty of times.
He did. He was dying to get one of us to shoot one of his guns.
My gun. Shoot my gun. I'm like, not a chance, Zach.
Yeah. So yeah, and our sponsor is
20 of them here.
and our sponsor is literally on the stage with us. That doesn't look good.
Kept offering.
Oh, that's so funny. I wonder how Taryn would like that if we were doing that to him in front of him, right?
He'd probably laugh. I mean, he wouldn't care.
Yeah. I mean, Zach wasn't being a jerk. It was just funny.
No,
it's just kind of funny that how it was going. It was just like, and I'm like, dude, yeah, my gun's not broken. Like, my gun's fine. Like, I had a couple of jams that match. It ended up being magazine. So I got it. Obviously, I don't shoot a lot of PCC. So my gear tends to just, if it works last time, cool. Right. And Pan American was 3 years ago that I was supposed to shoot it. So I didn't really like prepare for it. I didn't put a whole lot of extra like time or energy or effort into making my gear ready. So I had a few weird, like, it was the battery. You could tell it was that the bullet was dragging to get into the barrel, like fully seat. And that right there is magazine all day. That means the bullet was just down a little bit and which wasn't being pressed up. So I'm pretty sure I just need new magazines. Once I switched the magazine out, I didn't have a single jam the rest of the match. So it was definitely the magazine. That was definitely what the issue was. But All right, so let me get my notes out here. This is kind of weird, guys. I usually don't do this, but I'm working off my phone here or having some notes here so I can kind of read off a few things a few things that are different. This is not to say that USPSA or IPSC is better, but I'm sure we will have some comments or conversation about that because there are some things that IPSC does that is definitely I like more. And there are some things that USPSA does that I 100% like more. I am definitely a bigger fan of USPSA. And I'll ask you guys the same question. What do you like better, Christina, IPSC or USPSA? Because now you've shot quite a few IPSC matches on top of all of the USPSA that you do on a normal basis. So what did you like better?
So I gotta admit, I shot the hybrid match, the Caribbean Open. That was maybe the most fun match I've ever shot. And that was a level 1 with 20 stages. Not tons of, there was only one stage where I did a mag stage or a mag change because it was 32 round maximum and out of 20 stages. And it was so much fun, like the most fun I've had at a match, 2 days worth, 10 stages each. And it was all day for 2 days. It was so much fun. It had the best of both worlds. So we can take things from USPSA and IPSC. I'm learning, and there's good things in both. So I'm definitely liking the IPSC, but the Pan Am was a different story. If that's what an IPSC match is, I'm USPSA 100%. I don't want.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's definitely not a normal match. That match had some struggles for sure.
That's what I heard. It was a little bit like the Caribbean Open stages were very interesting, very fun, very athletic. And one difference between those stages, so the one difference between USPSA and IPSC is the requirement to stay within the shooting area. During the Pan Am, it almost didn't matter. The way the stages were set up, you pretty much were going to stay within the shooting area no matter what anyways. I don't recall a single stage where it even mattered, except for maybe a couple steps or something.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one stage. The one where the guy almost ran in front of my barrel, the big U-shape stage. That was the only one that I was like, if I could run out of bounds here, I would have, because it cut the distance. There was a lot of, I don't know. I probably would have stayed in bounds anyway, because I could have shoot the whole time, but it would have at least been nice to have a second option, because most of those stages had one option. You go in this way and that's it. That's
true. It definitely took options out of it. So that's the difference that I was thinking. I'm like, there's got to be something about that. And it is taking the options away. But the difference between the Caribbean Open stages, where part of the hybrid was that you do have to stay within the shooting area, is it designed it where you have to run so much more. Like what the stage designer wanted you to do. We could just hop over there and shoot, and we would have to move only left to right, but no, you have to run in a V shape and you have to run your butt off, and it adds an extra, I don't know, 12 to 15 plus yards to run it that way, or even more so in other stages. There was a really big one. It was my favorite because you really had to run, and there was so much movement. Somebody counted it out, having to watch within the stage. It was about 100-yard dash, pretty much.
That's what it looked like.
It was big and so much fun, and it forced you to do it. So it added a lot of athleticism in that match. Lots of low ports. My yoga actually came into play. Of course, I did a waterfall hike the day before the match, and I was actually pretty sore getting over those low spots when I'm super adaptive to low port. But yeah, so that was fun. And
so the thing that I'm noticing in the more I build matches is and Mason Lane's been talking about it publicly, and I've been talking about it, not publicly, but I would love to see some hybrid stuff come from IPSC, and just for the stage building, kind of scenarios, because I build a lot of stages and I'm very limited on some of my bays. I don't have super wide, big giant bays. I have a couple skinny bays that it is an hour of me just blocking everything. It's not even the building the stage that's hard. It's the hour of me blocking everything so they can't run around things or do this or do that. So if I had that option just in my like tool bag to go, hey, this stage, you can't run out of bounds, that would be awesome, right? I mean, again, it's just give me the option. Most of the time, I don't need it. But there are some stages where you're like, man, if I don't have that option, I spend a lot of extra time blocking things. It really sucks as a match director because, guys can really pick a stage apart because they can just go over and, it takes me 2-3 hours to build a really good stage. And then they go, oh, look, I found this spot over here where you can just stand here and shoot everything. It's like, what? Because you can run out of bounds, or, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things that guys can get away with because the way they enter a stage or exit a stage, with that.
Been singing that for a while. And before I shot IPSC, I told him, that's why we have USPSA, all the options. It's so much fun. And that's why it's our game. Like, don't take our game away.
Right.
But now I've done it, just to have the option to make that an option, like take Virginia count away, take that away, take the stand away, and go ahead and add in like must be within shooting area or whatever you would call it, and do that instead, and have that an option for a stage builder and a stage designer instead. And I like that. And so now I understand, now that I've done it and I actually have seen where that comes into play. I get it now, and I see why he likes it.
For me, I don't want them to eliminate
options.
I don't want to eliminate options. If what that does is actually a lot of times adds options, like it adds options as a stage designer. What most people think when they see that, they think, oh, it takes options away from the shooter. It actually doesn't if the stage is good, right? Like obviously if the stage is shitty, then that's a totally different thing. But if you build a good stage, then making people stay in bounds isn't going to hurt the stage at all. Actually, it helps because then it just allows me to kind of funnel them where I want to funnel them, like, or force them to have to find that sweet stage plan instead of just going, all right, cool, left to right, sweet, right to left. And that, I think, in a lot of ways is the problem with IPSC stages that I've shot so far, is there's a lot of, well, everybody's going to go left or everybody's going to go right. That's the stage plan. There's not like, oh man, there's 4 or 5 plans for this stage. It's just every IPSC match I've shot so far, it's very rare to see 2 or 3 stage plans. Just from my experience. Again, I'm sure there's other stages that are great, but
mostly smaller. So therefore, you're not going to have you're not going to have very many complicated 32 round stages either. So when they are smaller stages, often you lose options. It's hard to build a small stage with a lot of options.
I disagree with that. My average stage at home is 24 rounds, and I can guarantee you there's an average of 4 stage plans per stage that I build because of the way I build things. It's just not, I don't build things for one stage plan. I build things for options, right? I do that on purpose though. It's not, that's the whole point. Like to me, what makes a great stage is options, not round count, not reloading, not crazy long distance. It's options, right? So if I give you if I forced a 25-yard shot here and I give you a hoser up close, okay, cool. But what if I give you an option to shoot that piece of steel, but it's a hard lean in the front instead of a nice, comfortable standing position, but you can get closer? What do you want to trade off, right? There's a trade-off. So now that's a completely different stage plan versus just going, all right, well, everybody's going to come over here and shoot 25 yards from this spot. That's it. You're done. Screw you. Okay. Now everybody's going to run over to the right and shoot that, and then you're done. Where's the options? That's just copycat. Everybody's going to follow the same stage plan, and that sucks. Those are shitty stages, in my opinion, which we had a lot of at the Pan American. There were great stages, in my opinion. I enjoyed the stages, but it was a lot of copy and paste for all of us. A lot of us ran the same stage plans. It was just who was the best shooter on that specific skill set.
Right.
Maybe pick a different target. I don't know. Like that is a difference in stage planning. I don't disagree with just picking different arrays and shooting different arrays differently is absolutely part of stage playing. So I don't ever want to say that you can't make a good stage by having the same positions, because the way I attack a position and the way you attack a position absolutely makes a difference. So that also is options, but not for your average shooter, right? Like your average shooter is just going to go, all right, I'm going to run here and shoot 8. I'm going to run here and shoot 8. They're not going to think about it like I do. Like, oh, if I enter on this target and I start shooting sooner, I can kick ass on this specific array of targets versus just running to a position, right? So I think of it a little bit differently than others, but it's still the same thing. You still have to hit that position and do your thing.
But I agree. When I walk a stage and I see a bunch of people doing a bunch of different things, or at the end of the top shooters shooting it differently, I go USPSA stage.
Yeah.
And it's a USPSA stage. I agree. That is what you look for in a great stage, in USPSA especially.
Craig, what do you think, man? You think they should, what do you think about that rule where I like the USPSA rule personally, I like the freedom to do what I want on a stage, but IPSC's a little more restrictive. We didn't have a lot of restrictions in the Pan American, did we?
No, I shot the same group of people did the Czech Republic match, and there was, I think there's advantages, disadvantages to shooting IPSC and USPSA, meaning I like both. I don't like the, medium course, long course, short, where you got to kind of stick to that. The thing I loved about Czech was there was some huge stages, massive stages, lots of running. Some of the big stages had a lot of running in them. But then they also got to abide by that short course thing, whatever. I don't know the whole ratio, whatever.
Yeah, small, medium, it's small,
yeah,
medium, large course, and then you have to go right back to a small, medium, large. They have to stay in it. They are very restricted on the freedom of what they can build.
Yeah,
but to me, their definition of a small course is a lot different than ours. Like,
it's a
small course is
small course.
Yeah. A lot of running. You can have a stage with 8 shots and you're running your ass off versus USPSA. They tend to do a bunch of standing and shooting crap, Virginia count crap. There's just, and I don't want to be negative about it, because I do enjoy the standing and shooting stuff when you're shooting speed shooting. I do not enjoy Virginia count, but I do understand it. It is 100% a challenge under pressure to have to learn how to count.
And it's a challenge that we all have to do. Everybody.
100%.
Right?
Yes. Even though I hate that stupid thing, I get it. I understand it is a challenge. It's just not my personal favorite, thing to have in a sport. And again, it just seems so old school compared to everything's high round count, 24 rounds, 30 rounds, 57 round mag PCCs. And we go, all right, now I want you to only shoot 6.
Yeah.
It's like, and if you shoot 1 extra and you're good enough to know that you shot a shitty shot, doesn't matter. You just got to take it.
Yep. No, I know that wasn't the best, but
don't have to take it. You'll take the penalty, but it might be worth it.
Well, how about, all right. So I guess my biggest complaint about, where Virginia count kind of got under my craw a little bit, was that we did 3 or 4 of them at nationals. Like, why not just give me 1? I'm cool with that. Like, I only have to be able to count 1 time. That's it. I can barely count the stages that I'm shooting now with 24 rounds. And then you make me count like specific round. It just wasn't that was the only thing about it. I was like, high round count match. And we're shooting 3 Virginia or 4 Virginia count stages.
At 30 stages, that might be okay, but we only had 18?
Yeah, I think 18, 19 stages. Something.
At a level 1.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. Now it would be more fun if we had 30 stages.
It's going to be hard to do that because until we find a venue, right? And honestly, I think I don't know. At this point, I don't even care if we have 30 stages or even 20 stages. As long as we have a good vendor area and we start taking care of vendors, I'll take 1 less stage. If we get 1 less crappy ass stage, but it's more of an event, I'm down with that.
Agreed.
I mean, like right now, we're getting ready to be charged the most we've ever been charged for a match ever from USPSA for nationals this year. And I'm forced to take a jersey that I don't want. So
no, I know.
I cannot get into this subject. I gotta stay on, because listen, I'm very irritated about the jersey thing this year.
Well, getting back to stage
get back on it. Let's go. Stay on topic.
So, the Czech Republic match, I was kind of I shot Aruba before. Aruba was my very first full IPSC match. But the Czech Republic match was my second one. And that was a massive match, 30 stages and a huge range. And there was quite a few different stage planes. And you were mentioning like different target arrays approaching those. I saw, some shooters would choose to shoot certain target arrays, at a different angle, different order. There was on some of the big stages, there was multiple stage planes. So I guess it's just a matter of who's doing the match. The short stages, there wasn't a whole lot of option, but you did have a lot of options to choose different targets. They had steel, they had paper, so you could decide which one you're going to shoot first. That was a great match. I like both. I like IPSC and USPSA. I like both. I think they're both fun. I think they're both challenging. I think it is what it is. I mean, it's you got to stay in bounds on one. You don't have to stay in bounds on the other. I think it's cool to do both. I think it's cool just to try it and see what you think. You don't always have to run out of bounds to have a great fun stage.
I almost never run out of bounds, honestly. Like even when they give me the option, it's got to be such a significant time saver or position saver. I rarely run out of bounds, and the reason that is because I can't score points out of bounds. So I have really changed my mindset on running out of bounds. I just don't do it anymore. Like I will change my plan completely different than anybody else so I can stay in bounds and shoot. It's got to be such a significant advantage to stay in bound, to get out of bounds, that I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times I've walked stages and I'm like, oh, not doing it. I'm not falling for this. This looks so awesome, but I already know I'm 4 or 5 steps faster. If I stay in, I can start shooting 5 steps before everybody else. Even though it looks slower, I can still shoot sooner. So that's something that I have really changed. I used to be the guy that would run, jump over shit, like squeeze between walls,
falling out of bounds.
Oh my God, falling out of bounds. Nope, staying in bounds, and I'm ripping my gun. You don't score points falling out of bounds, period. I'll tell you, that has been a big change in my shooting. I didn't realize how much I ran out of bounds and fell out of bounds until
you should probably post video of like Area 6, 2019. You were just falling out.
I was trying to beat Max Theogranis, bro, and he was the best shooter in the world. And I'm like, he kicked my ass at one of the matches that we shot. The first nationals I ever shot, and he just murdered me in time. And I remember just like, I'm never letting this guy beat me in time ever again. I had no idea how he was beating me. I just thought it was because he was just so much faster. And I'm just like, it had nothing to do with my speed and all it do everything else. And I'm just like, I'm going to outrun this guy. And I was falling and flopping out of bounds. And the stages I actually beat him on, I stayed in bounds and never fell out. I was like, oh, look at that. Yep. But I didn't know that. I didn't even know that at the time. I never understood it took a long time. Ugh. So like we just hit on this object, freedom to walk stages. Or let's get into that. Since we're busting down the stages. The thing that I hate about IPSC, well, I shouldn't say hate because it depends on the stages. But one thing I dislike is that we didn't get to walk the stages. And I'm just going to say it out loud because I know a lot of people kind of disagree on this, and I'm okay with that. I guess I tend to go against the grain on some of these things that everybody thinks is the way. Everybody talks about how it's competitive equity, that people can't get to the match beforehand and walk stages. And
that's a crap excuse. Crap.
I agree. Yeah. But here's the problem with that. There is no such thing as competitive equity when it comes to walking stages. And I'm going to explain why. Yeah. Unless you know everything I know, or you walk the stage the way I walk, or even better, if I was to walk up to every single one of my competitors and go, hey man, here's my stage plan. What's yours? That's the only way there is going to be competitive equity when it comes to stage planning. I am also more prepared than most people I shoot against. So is that my fault, or is it their fault that they didn't schedule into their life or their day or whatever it is to come walk stages a day early?
Agreed. But I also see both sides. I think not being able to walk the stage is in and of itself a challenge.
I agree.
And a skill set that you can acquire. Like I really had to think, like in Czech, like you're trying to, I'm using the whole tape line. In Czech Republic, they had a tape line where you couldn't go past. You could, like at Pan Am, there was like the fault line. Czech Republic was like, feet back behind that. There was a tape line, and you're using the whole tape line. They try to see every angle. It was a challenge, and there was probably people better at it than me for sure. But it was an interesting challenge. I'm not saying I liked it all the time.
All right, so let me ask you this. Is it not an advantage if you shoot in the afternoon and you can watch everybody shoot stages before you shoot?
For sure.
What's the difference then? What's the difference?
Because you're shooting morning after you're flopping, right?
I understand, but you now have an advantage. Maybe you have an advantage on a big point stage that someone else didn't.
Absolutely. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just because the stage is worth a lot of points doesn't mean it's difficult. But
no, for sure.
Complex stage, and you just happen to catch somebody walking that. See, that's the thing. It's like there's no such thing as competitive equity when it comes to walking stages, because you don't have the knowledge that I have, or you don't think like I think, or you don't look for the little details that I might look for. So how is that equal? How can you have that? Hold on, Craig. Hold on, Christine. Hold on. Say it again.
Everybody has the opportunity to walk the stage versus not the opportunity to watch somebody shoot the stage.
Right.
But at least everybody would have the opportunity to walk it. So that would be more competitive equity than not being allowed to walk the stage.
I agree. So here's the other thing. What if it's a timing sequence? Okay. And you follow the super squad and you can watch them shoot it versus you follow a bunch of C/D class people that shoot it because your schedule doesn't fit that. Don't you think there's an advantage for that?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had an answer for all of it. I wish it was
dude, it's not. And this is just to kind of like throw a monkey wrench in the competitive equity thing, right? In my opinion, the competitive equity should be, I have the same target arrays that everybody else has. I have the same opportunity to shoot the same positions everybody else has. It should be about the shooting. It should have nothing to do with the preparedness. I mean, how can you say that? You can say, well, listen, you guys can't fly in until Thursday. The match is Friday. I mean, it's like, come on. Like, what if I flew in 2 days earlier to get rest and someone else drove in and showed up at the match the day it starts? Right? Are you going to tell me that it's not fair because I got there early because I wanted to get the rest and be more prepared?
No, but you could go, I mean, you could go further on this. And at Pan Am, I mean, Christine knows we shot stage 1, 2, and 3 in the sun, you know what I mean? And that sun's low and that's not fair for us, but other people that shot in the afternoon, that, you know what I'm saying? Like we can go on and on and on, so
it's just that conversation about the it's not about the shooting part. It's about the stage walking part that kind of gets irritates me a little bit. Because when people are like, it's, and I absolutely agree with the 4-minute thing, right? It is very much a challenge. I will say where the 4-minute challenge really happens is when you're shooting with not great shooters.
Yeah. Cause they stop. Yeah.
Oh, dude, they kill the flow of
very
stage walking.
Annoying, yes.
Very much so. Yeah. And this didn't happen at this match, so don't think I'm talking about anybody specific.
No.
Just I've seen this happen. Yeah, Christina. No, Christina, you're actually a good stage walker because you talk to us.
Yeah, but especially the ones who don't prepare, like they didn't come there to walk and now they're walking it for the first time and they're just standing there. That's just it is what it is. It's the sport.
But again, it's just annoying. Those are the things where that 4 minutes can hurt a competitor.
Yeah.
Okay. Not just because they can't get it, not because they don't it's not enough time, but because someone's in your way for 3.5 minutes of that walkthrough and you only got a half a second or half a minute to actually get some clear, stage opportunity.
Yeah. You don't have 4 minutes. You don't get 4 minutes on the stage to walk it.
And we had a couple stages that were doubled up that they were like, hey, 4 minutes for both. Now,
at nationals too.
Yeah. Again, the stages aren't that difficult, but it's still, you should get that 4 full minutes on both. But I get it. It holds up the match.
Yeah, you got
8 minutes. But they save a lot of time with there's no make ready. You can't take a sight picture. You can't even rack your gun. Okay, this is IPSC, guys. You can't even rack your gun and take a sight picture of the ground and pull the trigger. You can take a sight picture of the ground, but you cannot pull the trigger. So that was interesting because I'm a
PCC though was different though. You could take a sight picture with PCC.
You could take a sight picture with any gun. You have to look
unloaded.
Down. You can't look at the target though.
Could you do that at Czech?
Yes, you can look in IPSC. In IPSC, you have the opportunity to look at your dot
Yeah.
Point it at the ground. But if you cannot take a sight picture on a target or a steel or anything, so the thing is, the bad thing about that is you don't know what the sun looks like against that white target or against that brown target. You are only looking at a piece of dirt or green grass.
Oh yeah, that was
So it really can mess you up if you're sensitive to the dot, which I'm pretty sensitive to the dot actually. Like I don't want it. If I turn it all the way up and it's too bright, I really like it. It really screws my vision. Like, cause I look through that thing. I barely even see it. So like if it's real bright, I'm like, oh, there it is. There it is. Like I'm chasing it around like it's a laser pointer sometimes. So I have to really focus to not turn it all the way up, but I also don't turn it all the way down to where I can't see it. Cause if you come in on a fast array, especially a piece of steel, and you can see through your dot, sometimes you can't find the damn thing. It's like, where I just needed that in between that you didn't have, right? It's either too bright or too dim, and it can mess you up. But the sight picture thing really bothered me. I had a couple times where I was like, I'd rack my gun because I'm a safety freak, right? So I coach so much and I train so much that every time I take my gun out, I rack it 3 or 4 times, right? Not just because that's what I'm used to. And then I, make sure nothing's in it. And then I put it away or I check, and I always do a trigger prep because that's what I do. Like that's my system. I always want to feel that trigger for the trigger prep. And I did get a warning at the match actually. And they were like, hey, you can't take a trigger prep. And I'm like, okay, I'll try to remember that. Like, I'll try not to screw that up again. But I racked the gun and I did a couple racks and then I was like, oh, don't pull the trigger. Just hold it. I just held the gun, but the gun was racked. So, I mean,
let me ask you this. What would, Christine and Tom, what would you guys think, RO wise, IPSC or USPSA? What would you say is better? Or, what would you?
I think they're the same, bro.
USA. I saw a lot of crud at IPSC, but I saw some pretty good ROs at Caribbean Open also.
So let's dive into that a little bit. I'm going to tell you the IPSC match.
Those referee shirts either. So the referee shirt people, not so good. However, the 18 and 19 of Pan Am, they were very good. They did very good, like course of fire reads or stage briefings. They gave us the time for each one. They got us to pick which one we wanted to do first. Like, they were very cool, very good. They did everything by the book.
That's just because you went out drinking with those guys the night before, and that's why you like them.
That was the Jamaicans, bro. They were awesome. Those Jamaicans.
What it is, man.
That was the Jamaicans crew. Those guys were awesome.
I wasn't impressed. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna not say
so
that.
But the problem is you're looking at one match, right? So you have to look kind of overall. So this happened. This actually came up at the match, and I actually brought this up in the podcast after that I did. I can't remember which one it was, but I made a post about this. If we don't get our shit together as a sport, IPSC and USPSA, we're in big trouble. The staff is everything in a match. Like, I don't think people realize how important staff is, because it's just a guy with a timer and a guy with a pad. But we don't realize, some of us do, I guess, but it literally will affect your score. Okay. Like, it can change your entire match not having a good RO, having an RO that's overworked, having an RO that's friends with someone, having an RO that just gives the benefit of the doubt to the shooter because they don't want to argue, or they're not 100% sure. They didn't spray the barrel. They didn't pre-check the walls.
Having an RO working by themselves.
Yes. So that was kind of the issue at Pan American. So again, this is not to crap on Pan American, guys. This is just the way it was. They were very short-staffed. So being short-staffed, I mean, not just short-staffed, guys, but I mean like short staff, like to the point where the RO was running the timer and the pad for 30 stages, 30 squads.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot, man.
Right?
That's a lot of work.
More than 30 squads. There was 400 shooters at that match, I think it was what it was.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And there was supposed to be more if it wasn't for, the cancellations and the date changes. But you can't, I mean, I think they had 28 for 30 stages. So there was a couple people that were working doubles stages. They only had one RO on each one.
I personally, I think both are, USPSA and IPSC, both the ROs are great. and then there's some ROs that are not so great, you know, and that's just it is what it is. Like Aruba, you know, shot there, Pan Am shot there, check. Those guys, they're awesome. And then USPSA, there's a lot of, we all know there's tons of great ROs, and then there's ones that maybe shouldn't be doing it, you know. And like you said, you mentioned, like, you could have a good RO that's just burnt, man. They're burnt for 3 days, and it's tough, you know.
Bad. It's really bad. I've been there. I've been there. I've been there where I was ROing and I'd go 2 Charlie or 2 Alpha or an Alpha Mike, and the guy that's got the pads like, whoa, and I go, 2 Alpha? Like, what the hell did I see? Right.
Exactly.
And I'm looking right at the 2 holes and I just didn't see it. So that's where it's important to have extra staff or good staff or someone that actually cares.
Yep.
Yeah, but you know, it also, Matt, you got to have people that care, right? Like, that's where it starts. Yep. I would say the number one thing that I've seen with the ROs is there is no class that anyone can take that'll make you a good RO. None. I don't care. And USPSA has a pretty damn good class. Okay. Like, their class is pretty good, but there's a couple of problems with their class. You don't get real life experience. You don't know what to look for in a real match, right? They can tell you and show you videos and show you the rules and all these things, but you don't know until you're actually out there. You don't understand what an RO trap is until you're in that stage. You don't understand that you don't have to be riding someone's back as an RO until you have to. There's a lot, you have to almost have to understand how the stages ran to become a good RO. You can't just go, all right, cool, I'm just going to meet him, I'm just going to chase him around, because that's not good. Most people don't just, some people forget shit. And then you're standing right on their back, you know?
People around, how many reshoots did we have at Pan Am?
All right.
A few.
So Craig, dude, I'm going to tell you, probably the best ice in your veins I've ever seen in my life out of a shooter, bro. You had three unloaded starts on a stage in a row with 3 reshoots in a row. And I don't mean like shoot, oh, cool, go to the next stage, and then it happened. No, I mean back to back to back, and crushed every single one of those unloaded starts with a big stick, by the way, because it was a stage that you needed the rounds. And you actually ran your last run better than you did every other one of those runs, dude. It was, so I guess technically you shot that 4 times.
Yeah, shot it 4 times.
One was your first run, no time. Then it was a reshoot. That's why I kept saying, I'm telling you, you had 4 reshoots, but it technically was 3 reshoots and the first run that didn't count. So, dude, that was impressive, right? That was very, very, very impressive, bro. I was like, don't talk to him. Don't talk to him.
Yeah. Anybody that's coming to just get away. Just
he's like, dude, he's got this. Don't say shit. Don't say shit. Don't say shit. Cause it's like, you want to give that, like, just do what you did, bro. You got it. What you did. And you can't, like, I'm not saying nothing.
And that was the last shooter. I was the last
magazine over this right now.
But it was like, it wasn't like I had to shoot at the end. I was the last shooter and I had to go over and, and keep going. It was, that was.
Well, it's almost like, and that's the thing about that kind of a stage, bro. You're the last one. We're waiting on you to finish so we can go to the next bay, right? So now it's like you get in this rush to get your stuff together and reshoot when you don't need to, right? It's like at that point, you have to kind of settle back down and get back into that rhythm of, all right, I just need to focus on the fundamentals and focus on everything that I need to do.
Exactly.
It was really good, bro. Very impressive. Very impressive.
And he got it right. The RO got it right. Finally, he got the timer there. God bless him. He was cool. I mean, he was cool. It is what it is. It's just a part of the game.
Yeah. Go ahead,
well, there's opposite spectrum where Tom decided to reshoot immediately after like almost pointing a gun in our
bonehead. Yes, I was like, what are you doing?
To him like, what? You idiot, you can freaking wait a few and chill out and freaking gather your energies and like calm down. Like, that was kind of freaky. Like, you probably need to like recenter yourself. And he's like, oh no, I'm ready to go. And sure enough, I don't know, what, you mic it up or something on that one?
Yeah, I had 1 mic on that stage, but I actually ended up, I don't know. It's really weird because the very next stage that we shot, I had a reshoot on and I went right away and crushed it. I did really great on the next stage
Like,
that had a reshoot on.
in somebody's face either.
Well, and I didn't realize how much that bothered me, I guess. Like that was kind of a thing. Like I didn't realize how close I was to shooting that guy. Like my ejection port it was between.
Yes, he wasn't
my
past
face
your
and
barrel.
Yeah, he was.
But he was
close.
He was
Yeah.
past the ejection port.
Right. It was bad. It wasn't good. Like if
And he's a good
shoulder-
RO. You know, it is what it is.
If
you
his
know?
shoulder would have been a little bit farther forward, we would have had some paperwork having to fill out we would have had to make some phone calls to get somebody there for him because it wasn't good.
Trying to get that last shot, which we had so many reshoots just because people weren't used to PCC. In fact, my last stage of Caribbean Open, I had to reshoot. So I looked at the guy and I said, I am going to finish right there. And I said, I'm going to finish right there. And I could feel him. It was that.
All right. So I'm glad you brought that up because I have my rifle. All right. So here's the problem with ROs. Okay. And this is, well, let me rephrase that. This is not a bang on the RO. So I just want to kind of bring this up. So hopefully we can solve this problem in USPSA. And I think this is part of the issue with like an RO class is you don't get this stuff, right? This is all stuff that you get experience when you run a real match or run in a stage. So this light right here is my timer, obviously. So right here is the ejection port. All right. I don't know how easy it is to see in the video because it's kind of dark in here, but that's the ejection port. That's where the sound comes from, not this long pointy thing out here at the end, this comp, right? Everyone thinks that the bang comes from there. It doesn't. It comes from the ejection. Okay. That's where all the explosion sound comes from. All you have to do is point the microphone at that section of the gun. You can be underneath it. You can be over the top of it. You can even be a lot of the times on the left side where it's not, and you can still get that sound. That's how you actually RO a PCC. The other thing that I wish people would do more of, speaking of ROs, would look at the damn timer. So you don't have to hold the timer like this at the gun. It has a microphone on it that will get it down in the middle. And I'm not going to go get my timer. So it has a microphone. If you just hold it like this, you can see the timer clicking and the microphone's pointed at the gun.
See it roll.
You know, if you get the last shot, if you watch don't look at the damn gun, look at the timer and the thing will click over. As soon as it clicks, look at the number. And then you're like, all right, cool. That's the number. So you can memorize it like 1426. Then you go, if you are finished, unload and show clear. Then you say, do your safety thing. Everything's out. Look at the RO 1426. But then you know if the timer, you pick the timer back up and it says 2612. Oh, I picked up a sound from somewhere else. Nope, it was 1426 or whatever the hell number I just made up earlier. It's that simple. But you don't get that in the RO class. And this is the problem with all of the ROs in general. Like all the RO programs, right? You're not getting real life training. Most of the time when you become an RO, you're in the classroom, right? You're not on the range learning ROing. You're in the classroom for longer.
You are for USPSA.
USPSA is the same thing. A lot of it's class-based, and then you get a little bit of range time. You get some range time, but they're not always putting you in the scenarios that we have the most problems with. Like getting the time on a PCC really sucks. I can't tell you the last time I had a reshoot and then I got all those reshoots and I'm just like, it's because I'm shooting the damn rifle again. I used to get so many freaking reshoots with a rifle. It drove me nuts. I was like, dude, why do I have to keep reshooting state? I mean, I remember going through an extra 50 to 75 rounds per match because I would get to a position and the guy's not there. And I'm like, this sucks. You know, you do so well. And then all of a sudden you get screwed because the timer didn't work or they didn't focus on getting your time.
My last stage at the Caribbean Open was the huge one. And I told him I was going to finish over there and I could feel nobody behind me.
I watched him RO you.
I was like,
yeah.
Should I wait to take the shot? I'm like really low on ammo.
Right. Yeah.
And it was the biggest stage. There was only one shooter behind me, and the shooter before me almost killed over after running. That's good thing I'm in like really good shape right now. Because I mean, it was 100-yard dash, and you ran your butt off, and then it's like, oh, time to shoot again, and once again, and Bee's on the video and she's like, she's finishing over there. Get over there. I mean, and you're over a barrel. So, I mean, it wasn't even like the ejection port wasn't going to be out like this. It's going
Right.
to be down like this. So, I mean, just be over there.
So what that's part of that's kind of part of the RO like situation. And I don't know how IPSC is, but you can tell they don't really like, because they're in bounds all the time, the RO tends to just follow.
Yes.
Right. So like in USPSA,
It bounce.
the majority of the time for USPSA, I never chase a shooter. I go, he's starting on the right, going left. Okay, he's going to end over here. I will stand in the middle, hold the timer out, see if I'm getting the clicks, right? And then I go, okay, cool. I'll meet him over here to the right. Because I don't need to.
As long as you got the last shot.
As long as I get the first and last shot, that's all I need.
Yeah.
And it's not dealing with a brand new shooter that you just need to watch. And
So I will say that is where I changed my ROing. Is there is a brand new shooter, I stay tight. I get pretty close.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if I know that they miss something, I will stay back, because at the end of the day, I care more about my safety and someone else's safety than I do about that damn score. I'd rather give a new shooter a reshoot than worry about, having him crash into me with a loaded gun, or her, whatever it is. So I will stay back. If I know they forgot something, I'll stay back and I will just reach that timer out there and I will get as close as I need to get so that thing's still clicking. So I don't have to be right on top of their back. Because a lot of times those shooters look up and go, oh crap, I forgot. And they start coming back at you. And then you run into each other. And it's not worth, that score is not worth your safety. But a lot of people take it like you are glue onto someone's back when you're
You got to get every shot, which you don't.
And I do like that ROs get every shot, because then I can see what my splits were and how long transitions were. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be in my way or going to be unsafe for other shooters, then get out of the way. Your job as an RO is safety first, then the score, right? So be safe, but you are literally there just to hold the timer, right? Your safety officer first, then hold the timer. And then from there, get the last, and then you score. But if you're not there, if you're there to like ride on the dude's back, you're doing the wrong thing. That's just not good. You give yourself, first of all, you don't work as hard either. If you just stand there and let the dude do all the running, you're like, cool, I'll meet you over here. You save a lot of energy as an RO, not chasing the guy. I'll say one more thing, and this kind of got into an RO conversation. I don't know how, but other than the difference is people watch the gun too much. It's watch the gun, watch the shooter. Watch the gun, watch the target. Watch the gun, watch the target. Watch the gun, watch the target. You do not have to stare at the front of that barrel every single second that person has that gun in their hand. You need to look. There's so many things going on. You need to look, okay, cool. Did he shoot all the targets? Is his finger in the trigger? There's all kinds of things there that you have to pay attention to when they're doing things. If you're only looking at the gun, how do you know what they shot at?
you need to have a good second.
Yeah, but unfortunately, a second is scoring a lot of the times. It's just like, look, everybody can work together on that. There's no reason that the RO at the timer is glued to the gun, right? I mean, just looking at the gun, if they're going to move and this is where the 180 is going to happen, then you watch. You're watching the gun, right? But if he's standing there shooting an array of 20 targets, what the hell are you looking at the end of the gun for? Look at the targets, then go back to the gun, then go back to the targets, then go back to, you kind of have to be proactive there, right? You have to understand, because what if he leaves and he goes bang, but you weren't looking for it, right? So you just got to know, you kind of have to RO like a shooter. How would you shoot the stage? It's that simple. Like, all right, cool. I'd start here. He's going to run around. Well, he started here. He's going to run around here. Okay. So he's got to go here to finish on this last target. Just be ready for him. It's not really that hard of a job. But again, that's where I feel like the book versus reality fails, right? But how do you do that as an organization? How much would it cost to have someone set up stages and give live RO instructions? A fortune.
I mean,
Yeah, you get it on the job training, do it at level ones, practice at level ones. I mean, that's kind of how you have to do it,
Dude, have you ever ran at a level one? Have you ever ran a level one?
Well,
Like, have you ever worked at level one, like set up a match?
no.
Okay.
No.
good luck with getting those ROs to do your thing. Plus, who's
Yeah.
watching them? Who's telling them they're doing a good job?
Yeah, no.
We have zero organization when it comes to that. Like, the only way an RO gets better is if somebody like me is standing over him and go, hey man, you need to do this, this, and this. Like, you got to fix it. We
Yeah.
don't have that. We don't have that program. We don't have it set up like that. There's no buddy program. It's USPSA tells you the rules. You go to their program, you do their thing. And that's
I guess you got to get hooked up like with good R. I mean, I remember the state match at Frostproof a while ago. You and I worked it, and I was with Mike Howell, and I learned a lot from him. He's very.
Where are you learning that at though? You're learning that at a major match.
Yeah, yeah, and he was helping out a lot. He was great. And
Right.
that's how you learn.
But what am I saying? You're learning it at matches. You're not learning it in the book, bro.
Correct.
There's rules. Correct. There are rules that people know that you'll never see in this sport. Like, seriously, there's people that know rule books like the back of their hand, and you're like, when the hell is that ever going to happen? It's like.
Well, what you're talking about, Tom, is mentorship.
100%.
If we could add mentorship to the RO program, and just like when somebody becomes a range master, there's tons of mentorship.
Yep.
That's good, and that's a big program they have. Maybe if they could, I would hate for it to be harder to become an RO, but maybe you could just make that like, hey, within your first year, can you have like a couple matches like with a mentor signed off or something? Maybe, I don't know what the answer to that is, but mentorship is very important. And that's how I learned. And I learned working nationals. I learned a lot of things. I'd be even like being a little bit unprofessional even, like, nationals can't say next victim. He's like, can't say that. They like kind of like awkwardly looked at each other and smiled. So my mentor was like, you can't say that. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see where that's not good.
It's a good thing I wasn't your mentor, because I'd have been like, hell yeah, this is awesome. I don't know. I get it. I understand it. You're trying to be professional, but you should also have fun. Most shooters want to enjoy. Yeah, but most shooters want to enjoy the experience. And there's nothing worse than a stick in the mud RO who's just being a dick and not, just boss hogging his way around because he's in charge. There's nothing worse than that as a shooter, because you're just like, oh, I guess this is it literally will set the tone of okay. The stage that I almost shot the guy at IPSC at the Pan American game, tell me he didn't set the tone for that entire stage of negativity. Yes. When he started giving Craig shit about the flag and talking about how we're going to DQ people for not having flags and that whole before we even got checked in with them. Do you remember that?
I do. I didn't take it personally. I thought
it wasn't about personal. It was
I thought he was
boss hogging way that he was like, well, we're going to do this and why act like that?
Chill out.
Yes. Chill out. Like, dude, okay, if he didn't have his flag, you either DQ him, you don't DQ him, whatever it is, but just to act like, well, we're this and that. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to walk over here and put my radio back on.
It was an RO at the Caribbean Open, and bless his heart. And I've been there because I've been a first time RO before, and you could tell he might be newer at this. He was giving a full safety brief. Stage brief, and I'm going insane. There's a lot of everybody's like, chillax, and I'm like, oh, I'm going insane here. I'm like, yep, definitely flew to a different country to shoot this match. It's not our first time.
That's awesome.
You really don't need to do this. And I couldn't help but mess with the guy. I think I was first up, but I was like, so you can walk like this, right? And I was walking it facing up range.
You giving him shit?
No.
You just ruined that guy. Now he's gonna be everybody who comes up, next victim.
And he kept going 180, every little finger in the trigger. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you're killing my soul right now. I'm like, I can't take this. And I was up first, and I need to be not paying attention to it. But man, I was it was winding me up. I couldn't help it. I'm like, please stop, please stop. I'm like, I've shot I just shot a level 3. I'm like, this is my second match in a week. I'm like, come on. Like, oh no, it was painful. I'm like, I'm not here to listen to this guy's safety brief. I want to shoot. Let me shoot.
All right. I will say, I want to talk about let's get back to the IPSC versus USPSA, since I went off on that rant about, I need to do another RO podcast. I really do. I've had a lot of things that lately that I've been wanting to talk about. I don't know how that came out into that, probably because we were talking about almost shooting the RO.
No, I had asked the differences like IPSC ROs and what you guys liked or
yeah. I think they're the same, bro. So like, and I'm going to put this one out there too, because this is something that I'm so tired of this ridiculous argument. IPSC has its own bullshit, just like USPSA has its own. Everyone who thinks IPSC's got it together and USPSA doesn't, they're both the same organizations ran by two different political people, right? Or parties, whatever. They have their politics. We have our politics. That's all there is to it. Both USPSA and IPSC have their politics, right? So it's ran by men that are in charge of other men or women, period, or ran by women. So you're going to have that regardless. So they have their same issues just like we do, right? They have their same organizational issues where, guys want one thing and another guy doesn't want it. Rifle's a good example. They don't recognize PCC in a lot of matches. Like IPSC Nationals doesn't have PCC, but then they have a PCC national, or they have a Nationals rifles match. So it's like all these different things that they have. I talked to a couple guys from IPSC that were pretty big, that he actually ran the rifle section of IPSC at Pan American, and he was asking me about round count. He was like, so you guys have no problems with these mags and this and that? And I was like, no, man, this is a 47 round mag that I only fill it to 41, but yeah, we have a 47 round mag. And I guess they've talked about upping and increasing the round count for PCC for IPSC. And my question to that would be, why not? What if you can legally do it?
Yeah,
why would you not allow the round count? It doesn't add anything. Honestly, we had to reload quite a few times at Pan American. I didn't one time go, oh my God, a reload. This is horrible. This stage is terrible. It just flowed in the stage because the way I stage planned it.
Exactly.
So to me, it was like, well, if I just take that 1.5 second reload out, it's the same stage. I didn't change anything. So why add that unless you want them to reload, right? It's more or less, but I think they've had issues with getting material. Like, I don't think they have access at the time to 57 and 47 round mags like we do. No. So that was kind of the gist of that conversation I got. But I was like, man, this is, why not give more rounds if you can? I get it if you have a specific reason, but I mean, that's just, to me, I never understood the round count argument that, unless it's something specific like production, you really, really want to make a reload stage.
Once.
What's that?
I ran out once.
Yeah. Well, you got to learn to reload, kid. That's how it works.
I had too many makeups. I know how to reload. Did it on an empty chamber.
You never do that. You never have makeups.
So I mean, it just adds an element for idiots like me, or like, so I was just blasting them.
I want to talk about a couple of different things from the two matches that I shot, or IPSC versus USPSA. So I have a list of this list started when I shot the Pan American Games in Frostproof in 2022. So the USPSA version of what I'm used to is you have the freedom to choose different stage plans, right? So the IPSC state match that I shot, and honestly, even here at the Pan American Games, both of them, the Pan American Extreme and the Pan American in 2022, they're very restrictive of where you can start. A lot like the Pan American Games in 2022 in Frostproof, almost every single start position was facing directly downrange, no looking left, no looking right. Your body's completely downrange. Your eyes are down. Well, your eyes aren't going to be downrange unless they, standing there looking at you. But they always had you holding something too. They very restrictive on, like, they always had something in your hand, or there was no freedom to shoot, like to stage plan. You just were stuck wherever they put you. I noticed Pan American Extreme, they had the same kind of concepts here. There was a lot of start positions where you were starting on a stick, but also the stage designs made everybody start in the same spot. So it was almost a forced position regardless. I shot pistol in one, I shot open in the first one, and I shot PCC in this one, in the second one, in the extreme in 2023. Two totally different concepts of guns, obviously, but they treated them exactly the same way. I didn't feel like there was like, oh, PCC was getting screwed or open had an advantage. The both guns were treated exactly the same. The stage plans I don't think leaned one way or the other, but I know that the Pan American games in Frostproof, if I was shooting a PCC, it would have been a totally different match. But they didn't allow PCC at that match. So it was kind of interesting. One allows it, one doesn't allow it. Like both IPSC matches, but I don't understand where the difference comes in those two matches. Say it again.
One's a handgun championship. Worlds is handgun.
Well, it wasn't Worlds though. It was just Pan American.
That's a qualifier for those Worlds, and PCC whatever will be a qualifier for PCC Worlds.
Yeah, I don't think that was a qualifier because the World Shoot was literally, I think, a month after that. So I'm not sure. Again,
separate them. They do.
I'll add this as well. And I know this is probably because I'm so green to IPSC and I don't have a lot of experience. IPSC is freaking confusing as shit when it comes to their matches, like understanding the signups, understanding when the matches happen. Like the scoring. It's almost like, I think they fixed that because at Pan American, it was on Practice Score, but originally it goes to their website. Then you got to figure out how to download it. I think somebody finally got that figured out to where now they can work together, but it's very confusing when you're signing up for an IPSC match versus Practice Score, USPSA. Super simple, super easy. And I know that's probably what I'm just used to, but I was like, dude, this sucks. I didn't even know when the match starts.
Yeah, it was hard. Agreed.
So the communication just isn't there.
I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, the communication just isn't there when it comes to that. Now, obviously that falls on match directors, and I was shooting for Team Da Vinci at the time, so Padavan was taking care of a lot of that. And again, I signed up 3 years ago when I was actually shooting a lot of rifle, so it was just a lot of things kind of fell in where I was just like, what? I don't even know when this match is. When are we going to do it? When are we doing it? Not doing it? I mean, it was postponed 3 times because of COVID, so it just. I would say that from my experience so far, signing up for the international matches has been pretty shitty. Like, it's been very hard to follow. It's not the same as Practice Score, I'll tell you that. And Practice Score sure does make life easy when you sign up. You can search and boom, there's your match. Sign up. Pretty simple. Yeah.
Go to PSA and there it is.
Right. Yeah. It's just totally different. The cost of the match, did you guys think they were any different in cost? Like USPSA at this point starting to catch up? Is IPSC more expensive? This match was very expensive because it was supposed to be 30 stages. The Pan American Games, but extreme, but
I think I know Czech was more expensive. You got 30 stages, they're paying the ROs, it was like 300 something bucks. So
now, did you paste there?
We had a little bit of pasting because they had it changed with their employee, something with like, they had some deal with Czech Republic was making them do something with their employees, whatever. So we had more pasting, but the ROs did a lot. It wasn't like we pasted a whole ton. But they asked us to. They were very, I thought they were great, and they were just respectful. Hey, can you guys help us out, please? Whatever. And, there was no issue. Not at all.
So the 2023 Pan American Games that I shot, or 2022 Pan American Games in Frostproof, they pasted, but were very, they should have had help. And what I mean by that is shooters should have pasted. And yes, I know I'm an American who is used to pasting, and a lot of the foreigners or Europeans and other people in other countries don't paste a whole lot. But they were very short staffed when it came to a fully pasted state match. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they did not have enough staff to paste. I pasted. I pasted, and I had a couple ROs like, wow, you don't have to do that. I said, no, I do. You've been out here all day. You've been doing this for 3 days in a row. This is bullshit. Like, there's no way for 32 round stage, 2 guys. This is bullshit. Like, you guys need help. Like, people need to paste. Some of these stages that at that specific match, had a lot of activation. Like there was one, and I think they had more ROs for that. And some of the bigger stages had they had a little bit more help. But here's the problem with IPSC from the matches I've shot. It doesn't matter if it's a 16 round stage or an 8 round stage. If you have 20 miles of running, that RO still has to walk down there and run 20 miles. They might not pace a lot, but they're still walking. They're still doing the same amount of work. It's just they're going to less targets, but they're still walking the same distance. They're still setting up the same piece of steel 400 times. Yeah. I think I'm telling you, man, I can see it. I pay attention to a lot of this stuff. It's coming. We're in for a rude awakening with this staff reset. We are going to get our asses kicked in this sport. I'm telling you, people they're not understanding it because I'll equate this to socialism. The more you pay, eventually the guy that you pay is going to be like, fuck this. I'm not pacing either.
Aruba was unique,
and you can keep paying, but eventually the guy who's doing all that pacing is going to go, screw this. I'll just pay and stand back like all these other guys. Then we don't have anybody doing anything.
When we shot Aruba last year, I thought they had kind of a pretty cool idea. They took the high school kids came out and helped out pasting. They gave them service hours or whatever they do.
I just think that's hilarious, dude. Have you seen the generation of children growing up? Have you seen the generation of children growing up? Do they seem like that go-getting, I'm going to get off my ass and get out there in the sun and paste?
Sure.
What's that?
Well,
Who?
People
at Aruba they did.
Hold on. The people that are in the sport do that? The kids?
No, I mean, like when they have like a volunteer thing and it's like, I don't know, they might have
don't have anything to do. So you're just going to pull random strangers over and go, hey, come to a gun match and come paste for us. Don't worry. It's completely safe, even though you guys don't own guns, but we're going to bring you in. We're going to teach you how to pace. We're going to teach you how not to screw up and screw scores up, not paste early. We're going to teach you how to run the pad. We're going to teach you how to run timers. See, this is the thing. We do not have the manpower in the world of this sport that's going to make this work. The other thing is you got to think about insurance at ranges. Ranges will not let minors on some of these matches. They can't have minors.
Yeah. All I know, I could tell you in Aruba, they had the kids pasting and that little kids.
Totally different country, bro. They also have labor laws, bro. They make tennis shoes and basketballs and shit up there for 10 cents a day. So,
well, they weren't little kids, but they were teenagers. But I thought it was pretty cool. You know, they got service hours.
The thing is, we're not paying attention to what's going on. We're losing volunteers. We're losing the older generation that this sport was grown off of. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Tom Castro Shooting Academy Next Level Podcast. This is the end of part 1. Tune in next week to listen to part 2.